Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Shadab. Happy Sunday, which is when we're recording this. It's a gorgeous day outside. I plan to go hit the beach. How about you?
Oh, no beach for me. Just staying home and going to enjoy the cooler part of the summer going forward.
Yeah, we got a little bit of reprieve here. Only 80 degrees, but the important thing is low humidity. It's probably one of the best days of the summer I think I've seen so far. So looking forward to getting out there and being out in the elements.
Yeah, I was there actually on the beach last week, and it was getting cold already. So good luck with that. Hopefully, you will get some warm waters.
Yep, same here.
Okay, so this week was pretty busy with lots of earnings. Jamie, we will talk about the earnings report, primarily focusing on how the AI is actually shaping those earnings and what the CEOs talk about the AI in their earning calls.
OpenAI also released a new mode called StudyMode. We'll get into that, especially as school season is ramping up. And again, Google has put out something called DeepMind, DeepThink. So we'll talk about what that is as well.
It's getting too many deeps now, but we will also talk about Copilot mode in the Edge browser. Stay tuned for a quick introduction.
Greetings. Welcome to the AI Files podcast. If you're looking to stay up to date on the AI, this is the podcast for you. I'm Shadab Hussain. I'm the director of AI at Microsoft, and I'm your co-host.
Hello, everybody. Jamie Basilico, as you know already. I'm the other co-host here for the AI Files. My day job is a data and AI technical specialist and architect. And as a reminder, please note this is not an official Microsoft channel, so the views and opinions expressed by myself and Shadab are our own and do not represent the views of Microsoft.
This week, in the core of the week, let's talk about there is an essay, and it's not very long essay. It's a short essay from Mark Zuckerberg, and he writes in an essay on the superintelligence, his favorite word. Let me quote him. Quote, I'm extremely optimistic that superintelligence will help humanity accelerate our pace of progress. But perhaps even more important is that superintelligence has the potential to begin a new era of personal empowerment, where people will have greater agency to improve the world in the directions they choose. As profound as the abundance produced by AI may one day be, an even more meaningful impact on our lives will likely come from everyone having a personal superintelligence that helps you achieve your goals, create what you want to see in the world, experience any adventure, be a better friend to those you care about, and grow to become the person you aspire to be. Meta's vision is to bring personal superintelligence to everyone. We believe in putting this power in people's hands to direct it towards what they value in their own lives. This is distinct from others in the industry who believe superintelligence should be directed centrally toward automating all valuable work, and then humanity will live on a dole of its output. At Meta, we believe that people pursuing their individual aspirations is how we have always made progress expanding prosperity, science, health, and culture. This will be increasingly important in the future as well. Unquote. So this was actually Mark writing in the essay. This was a snippet from an essay he wrote on the superintelligence, and this part highlights the differentiation of his vision that he's talking about on superintelligence. And superintelligence is essentially, you can say, it's basically the kind of AGI, etc., that others are also talking about, right? So the thing is that Meta's vision is slightly different from others because Meta is not in the productivity software, the enterprise, the wheelhouse, etc. Meta is in the creative. Meta is in the sharing, collaboration, right? So their realm is different, and that's why their version of superintelligence is also going to focus differently on the use cases. He's talking about the creative, like enabling people to be more creative and collaborate and share and like combine these digital and the physical world. That's what Meta's vision is. In fact, Meta's, well, is also betting on the devices to augment this vision, right? So, for example, OpenAI has been working with the Johnny Ive on a particular device. Everybody has a different version of what they believe that would look like, and but most people agree that it will not be smartphone. Apple has its Pro Vision glasses. Meta also has glasses, and they are actually, in fact, betting on the glasses, and that's why they have different versions of glasses. Soon there will be like a full blown glasses store probably. But that's what their vision is. They believe that this the whole personal super intelligence will be very personal as well as it is on the device like glasses. So bit fascinating version of his vision, and looking forward to see how that comes around.
Yeah, I look at this as two different angles from Mark. One is, I think we reported on it a couple of weeks back, but they've spent a lot of money to bring top talent into Meta, to the tune of very high millions. So that's number one. So keep that in the back of your head. They've got these great researchers now that are inside of Meta. Now, couple that with what is Meta's strength? It's working with and enhancing the world of individuals that use their platform, whether it's Facebook or whatever they come out with. So to me, this is not surprising because Mark is trying to change the narrative of, number one, let's leapfrog AGI and go to superintelligence. And then the narrative is trying to be shifted in the sense that, well, they've got this great platform. You could argue whether it's great or not, but they've got this great platform with great reach. How can they change that narrative in terms of how artificial intelligence or super intelligence will help to shape and influence and augment the world for all of those individuals, rather than, hey, what is it going to do for a job or a company? So I think this is a great way of changing that narrative, going out and speaking about it, because if you don't kind of set that direction, or set that, well, what are we trying to do with our AI? Well, then it never becomes a reality. Now, whether or not it will, time will tell. But given, going back to what I just said about all the money that they just sunk into researchers, this is the clear direction of where Mark wants to take, AI inside of Meta.
True.
So anyway, shifting gears, other than talking about the quote of the week, let's talk about one of the other firms that are out there. So this one came a little bit of as a shock to me, to be honest. And it is on I'm going to call them the foundational firms. So there was a report by Menlo Ventures that just came out this past week, and they did, analysis based upon market share usage. And lo and behold, like, if you ask me who would have been the top company, I would not have said Anthropic. So if you look at the slide that I have up here, Anthropic holds a 32% percentage of enterprise large language models used by overall usage. And again, this is based upon this Menlo Ventures report. You could see the leapfrog. I mean, OpenAI had a clear advantage, just a short while ago, back in 2 years ago, which is a long time in AI world these days, but 50% in terms of usage. And, as it stands now, it's at 25%. So a huge drop. But, what do you read out of this a little bit deeper is that large enterprises aren't just picking models for price. They're picking models for price and performance combined. And they're looking at, all different options that could be provided. So, we've seen this clear increase of Anthropic over the years. Now, what's even more interesting, and hands up, I am one of these people that I'm just going to, mention in the stat, is that if you take Anthropic at just overall use, 32%. But if you look at it at the coding market share, which is even greater, they're at 42%. And this is why I said it. I was a little bit surprised at the numbers in this report, because Anthropic made a clear bet to be really good at one thing, and that is at coding. So, or the application development space, and being able to actually have a model that does really well with that. So they're Claude 4.0 sonnet model, which I use primarily for my application development with AI. That is certainly, you know, putting them in that leadership spot for coding market share. So this is just telling to me, we kind of got this flip on its head where OpenAI is not the clear leader anymore, especially what it was back in 2023. And even last year, it still had a lead. Again, this is just one survey report, so take that with a grain of salt. But you can definitely see the trends, and it's very evident from the application development community that are using these models.
Yeah, and it's a great. To be honest, it was surprising to me as well. There's a few aspects of it. Importantly, this is only the enterprise segment, right? So in the consumer space, OpenAI still rules, right? So in the that's where they're the biggest share of the market, and they still rules, right? And they have the most brand recognition. That's number one. Number two, this does not mean the OpenAI is actually declining in its absolute numbers, right? So they're absolutely growing in terms of the number. This is all the relative market share only. Just a few disclaimers for the people to not to misinterpret this. They are still growing leaps and bounds. It's just that the entire market has actually started growing heavily, right? And this market size has become just too big. The share has come down because obviously Anthropic Lab really, just barely started in 2023 getting the attention. The other thing is the coding use case, Jamie, that you mentioned, actually really kicked off, right? Initially, the lot of focus was people were still, like doing the chatbots, etc. But then the coding started picking up in 2024, and that's where you see the coding is actually the main segment where Anthropic has the biggest lead, and that's what has actually helped it put into the higher market share. So coding has become much, much better, right? All these agents and agentic coding and vibe coding that has picked up. So, this is a great example of picking your battle. And, sometimes that battle pays off. This is a really good example of that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's move on to the theme of the same market share and the earnings, etc. We had a number of earnings in the last 2 weeks. What we're going to do is we're going to not talk about all the numbers, etc., just for the sake of the numbers, but basically how it relates to the AI, right? And what does it mean for a listener like you from the corporate and enterprise point of view? So let's start with the Microsoft earning, and of course, everybody knows Jamie and I, we both work at the Microsoft. The basically the earnings that were reported from Microsoft beat all the expectations, right? They blew all the earnings, and it was $76.4 billion for the quarter, which is up 18% year over year. Um, and Microsoft fiscal year actually ends by 30th June, so it was the end of the financial year. The cloud revenue reached $46.7 billion, up 27% year on year. This is the first time actually Microsoft has given the cloud revenue for the Azure. Otherwise, the revenue was always clubbed as intelligent cloud. And intelligent cloud is a bunch of things. It includes a couple of other things as well. There was some SQL Server revenue, some Windows revenue. There are some bunch of other products also that are generally included in the intelligent cloud. Now, this first time we have the numbers from the Azure. So now people are able to actually compare the Azure versus AWS and the GCP because we did not have that number. It was already just a guesswork so far. That was up 27%. And that's a big number because that number is pretty much in line with what GCP had and way more than AWS had. Okay. So that now people are able to compare more effectively. Satya Nadella, he said on AI that cloud and AI is the driving force of business transformations across every industry. And he said that at Microsoft, it is innovating across the tech stack to help customers adapt in the new AI era. So essentially, everything was driven by AI. They also provide actually specific growth, which is, I believe it was 16 percentage point. From AI. Microsoft has started providing the growth attributed just from AI point of view. Also, they're going to spend $30 billion in the next quarter on the capital expenditure. So, and that's why, like, basically, they're heavily investing in data center. There are more demand signals, so there is more demand than Microsoft can fulfill. That's what the message essentially, right? So AI continues to actually, it's real. It's not like another what we had, like the for example, the metaverse, and the this is actually real. It is actually helping companies gain the revenue. Now let's move on to Meta.
I was going to
Meta
say,
has, yeah,
I'm just going to say it's definitely real. I mean, we've all seen the stock rise, especially right after the that announcement. So, yeah, to your point, it's things are all the investments that were made in the years prior are actually being now recognized by by the street. So the numbers not only from Microsoft but all the other companies that had their earnings, which we're about to get into. So tell us about Meta.
true. And let's quickly address that, Jamie, because since we're talking about Microsoft, of course, there has been a lot of chatter about that. Okay, these earnings are like, like totally strong, and they're just blowing it out of the park. Then why the layoffs? The thing is that I think I talked about it a couple of episodes uh, earlier as well, that it is not the layoffs, etc. They are of course questionable from when a company performs really well, and they are being questioned, right? In fact, Vice President JD Vance, actually, he also referred to some of these things in a little different context, though. But it becomes questionable with this strong performance, and I think it is, the layoffs are not directly related to, in terms of that, okay, because AI is being used and now it is having less. It's not really about that. It's also reshaping the workforce. That's one part of it. And it is an enterprise way of doing things, whether we agree or not, right? I mean, I certainly believe that when a company is performing well, they should actually not change or not try to fix things which is not broke. But the enterprises have their own way of thinking. But it is important that people understand that it is not just about that. It is also gearing up for the future, because of what has, there is a famous book, actually, I really love that book, from Marshall Goldsmith. um, yeah. Essentially, this, it says that what got you here is not going to take you there, right? So that is what it is. So they're basically gearing up for the future. Anyway, let's move on to the Meta actually released their quarter 2 2025 results, and this, it was $47.5 billion, which is 22% year on year jump, as their advertising business rebounded strongly, and net income was great as well. From an AI point of view, AI powered ad tools boosted the engagement and efficiency. Meta reported that AI driven recommendations lifted ad conversions by 5% on Instagram and 3% on Facebook, helping drive the revenue growth. So AI is really working out well for Meta as well. Um, he also said, Mark Zuckerberg said that the quarter was strong, and he said that I'm excited to build personal super intelligence for everyone in the world. On the earning calls, he also said that he's pushing very aggressively on AI innovations, and Meta raised its 2025 capital expenditure forecast to 66 billion to 72 billion dollar, with the heavy AI investment and AI infrastructure, as well as the race for AI talent. And we all know that, right? All these everybody seems to be like getting $1 billion offer. I also had one, except that it was missing the main digit. I had all zeros on. So, you know, and of course they took a stake in the Scale AI as well. Moving to Alphabet, right? So they had their earnings as well the week before. They had like a $96.4 billion. This is a quarter 2 for Alphabet, which includes Google. It is up 14% year on year. Net income was also high. This was again an earning beat. So both, so far, Microsoft, Meta, and Alphabet, everybody had the earnings beat. The cloud revenue was about 32% year on year to $13.6 billion. Okay. Again, I mean, the base is lower, so they had the highest growth, followed by Microsoft and then the AWS. Uh, Sundar Pichai, he said that we have an AI first strategy. We are leading at the frontier of AI. AI is positively impacting every part of the business. And then, he talked about search growth and other things as well. And they raised their 2025 capex budget by $10 billion to $85 billion to expand data centers and AI infrastructure. So
It's a big jump.
big jump, big jump. That means that all these companies have been really, really looking at the. And then let's move to the Amazon. Amazon had their again quarter 2 result, $167.7 billion, up 13% year on year. Wow! At that base, that double-digit growth is amazing. By the way, um, and a lot of that growth actually comes from the cloud and the other segments as well. Of course, the Amazon retail store. You can at that scale, it's hard to grow as much. The Andy Jassy, who is the CEO of Amazon, he said that AI will change every customer experience, and he detailed about how the Amazon has embedded AI across the company, like like new AI-driven features from Alexa's upgrades to AI tools for developers, like the Kiro coding assistant and the Bedrock agent, etc. Capital expenditure at Amazon will increase, and basically this will be like in quarter 2 they spent about 31.4 billion for the AWS data centers. And then 2025 capex could approach $120 billion. So again, way above the previous forecast, etc., and the plans. So again, they seem to be continue to growing as well. And then the Nvidia, they had this is their essentially revenue, which is $44 billion in revenue, up 69%. Okay, 69% year on year, unbelievable. um, and they had a great quarter last time as well. CEO Jensen
Yeah.
Huang said there is a global demand for NVIDIA's AI infrastructure, which is incredibly strong. And he talked about the usage of AI models jumped 10x in 1 year, 10x. Okay. And then he also talked about that essentially we view AI as essential infrastructure. The nations actually view the AI as an essential infrastructure, just like electricity and the internet, and with NVIDIA at the center of this profound transformation. His Blackwell AI supercomputer chips are basically entering the full scale production for cloud customers. So, just a quick roundup of all these different earnings, Jamie, this week.
Yeah, and the Nvidia one doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, because if we see these big jumps by Microsoft, Meta, AWS, Google, who's at the heart of all that? It's Nvidia. I mean, yeah, some of these companies have their own chips, but Nvidia certainly is used in a lot of those data center build outs. And as you just said, we're talking billions of dollars being spent just next fiscal or calendar year. Nvidia is going to reap the benefits of that, and they have over the last several years for sure.
Yeah. And I think pretty much every country actually had a beat on the earnings. So everybody had a gain. I think except the AWS. I think Amazon had a little bit, the stock was not as high. People were questioning the AWS growth because compared to the Azure and the GCP, it was less. But remember, the AWS base is much higher, right? They're already about $120 billion something on the cloud revenue. So their base is higher as well. Um, but anyway, the other thing is, Jamie, related to some of these jobs, there was another news where basically the jobs report was significantly revised downward, right? And that's a bummer. Okay, that's a bummer because that is something that people were it wasn't really expected, right? So let's show that the chart here. Okay, so from a news NBC news source, this chart was available, and you see here in 2025 the first 4 months have held steady on the job number. In the month of July, only 73,000 new jobs were added, which is way low than the previous one, which were like everything was like above 100,000 job. Now, more importantly, in the month of May and June, we were reported that okay, the jobs added were like 144,000 new jobs, which basically made everybody believe that the economy was very resilient, etc. And now it was actually revised downwards. Look at the revision here. Okay, from 144,000 to 19,000 jobs. What happened really? This is like really surprising. In fact, no wonder, right? I mean, we know that other news actually, the President Donald Trump, he also actually fired the head of the labor secretary, statistic, essentially, chief, who presents all these job reports, etc. This is shocking. Okay, and it also completely now paints a very different picture. And now I'm starting to think, okay, is July number right now? Because why would that suddenly jump from 14,000 in June to 73,000? Like we only hear about layoffs, etc. So what is going on? This is now like everything in my view now is like hazy right now. I don't know what's going to happen on
Right.
the job market, and a lot of that people are talking about is in terms of the, is this an AI impact, right? I would say no, it is not an AI impact. As far as we can see in my purview, AI is not directly giving the job cut. Of course, in many companies it is, but in the enterprises, generally we are seeing that people are adopting it and they are still playing with it, coding, and a lot of use cases. We don't see that happening a lot in the enterprises. Of course, there are many companies, but particularly some areas like contact center, etc., where companies are clearly cutting down, like the process-oriented jobs, the automation, where it becomes very easier. That is where certainly the job impact is there. But I don't know how much of this really, there is no effective way to say that how much AI has contributed to it. It may just be the general state of the economy. It's a confusing picture because there are many other macro factors right now in the economy, not just AI.
Yeah, we'll see what the September jobs report redefines for or revises the July numbers. But yeah, obviously something's up here at the very least for those 2 months that went drastically down. So it was either wrong to begin with, or it's wrong now. So we'll get to someone will get to the bottom of it. Real quick, just a one sentence on a rapid fire news. So I know we talked about Google in earnings. Google has also come up a couple times this week, which we'll get into. But Google said that they would be signing the EU's AI Code of Practice, which, just to remind everybody, this was focused on how artificial intelligence should be used and sort of like protecting consumers, might be an easy way of saying it. It's how businesses will follow practices that the EU put together. So that reversal was basically based upon two things. One, I don't want to call it a caving by Google, but basically they're like, all right, we'll sign it. There were some revisions over the last 2 months on what was in there, so some things got relaxed. But again, Google is going to sign it and participate, which again puts them on a level playing field with others that have already said that they'll get behind it. So let's get into some launches. So there have been some new things that have call it popped into capabilities now. Let me move the slide together, and my computer is going a little bit slow. So Alibaba. So hopefully everyone knows that there's more than just the U.S. companies that are putting things out. I mean, obviously Mistral's in that camp of non-U.S., but Alibaba has models as well. They have something called Qwen. So they just released their newest model, which is called Qwen 3. It's got a long name, 235B, A228 thinking, 2507, which basically relates to July of 25. So what they're touting here, and you can see it on these quality scores, is that it's on par with models like OpenAI's O4 Mini and Gemini 2.5 Pro. Again, those are both reasoning models. So again, the benchmark scores are either on par or just slightly below. They're also, the thing that makes this interesting is it's based upon Apache 2.0 licensing. They do provide an API layer for being able to connect into these models, and that's 70 cents per million input tokens and $8.40 per million output tokens. You compare that as an example, like OpenAI's O4 Mini, it's certainly a lot less than their $1.10 per million token input, but it's a little bit higher on the output response compared to the $4.40 per million tokens. Availability, this is available on Hugging Face as well as on ModelScope. It's also accessible through Gwen Chat, which is similar to OpenAI's ChatGPT. The one thing here, and this is no surprise to me and shouldn't be a surprise to you either, for those that are listening, is that Alibaba is censoring content that would be critical of the Chinese government. So if you're using it, especially inside of China, you will be censored somewhat based upon the output of those, calls into the model. So that's Alibaba. Next, sort of in rapid fire here, is ChatGPT has put out, or so to say, OpenAI inside of ChatGPT put out something called the StudyMode. And again, to me, this is all around timing. What are we going into? The back to school. Some of the schools here, in the United States, go back within like 2 weeks from now. So what StudyMode is, if I had to sort of dumb this down to make it real simple, is instead of giving answers to students that are in school, whether or not it's college, high school, or even in elementary school, it's not giving them answers. The idea of this is to help students develop their own critical thinking skills rather than just like, here's the answer. So that's really what StudyMode is, and it allows these students to really enable their reasoning skills on their own rather than these direct answers. Now, you'll still be able to go outside of StudyMode. So if someone just wants the direct answer, they could still do that. So nothing's changing there. So what is also of interest, this is not something new. So Anthropic actually released something similar called Learning Mode, and that was a couple months back. But again, it's all around timing. This is going to be sort of top of mind for people as, they're parents of kids who go back to school. They'll be able to see this. Now, this is rolling out basically to all of the various different purchasing levels. So it's going to be in ChatGPT, the free version, Plus, Pro, as well as Teams, which should be rolling out to just about everybody. I saw it in my ChatGPT Plus plan just 2 days ago. It's also going to be coming to education subscribers, which probably makes the most sense. I'm not sure why they didn't start with that first. So, and that'll be focused on those that are actually within a school's account who have purchased that plan for their student body. Hey, in more rapid fire news, I call it rapid fire launch news, basically. So Google has come out with 2 new things, or a bunch of things wrapped into what they call their AI mode. You should be able to see this today. Like literally, if you go to google.com, there will be a little button and you can say, go into AI mode. To kind of like, at least paraphrase from my perspective on this enables a person who's using Google search to really get into the capabilities of what AI could do for searching. So this update that they put out really is a couple of things wrapped into one. So as I said, this feature set is called AI mode for search. But what it allows you to do is you can add images and PDFs into this AI mode and ask questions about it on the desktop. So if you've got images that are on your desktop without actually needing to upload them, you could actually ask those questions. So on the PDF, as an example, if it's like things on lecture slides or research papers, this AI mode would be able to analyze those files and cross-reference them with content that's on the web for those deeper insights. One of the newest things that came into this AI mode is something called Canvas mode, or Canvas. And what that allows you to do is actually, it's basically a dynamic planning mode inside of this AI mode, and allows you to build, project plans or study guides, even for that matter, if we're on this topic of like back to school. And the other idea is that you'll be able to like actually upload different things into it to create syllabi off of that content. Another thing is this live search with video input. So it's basically using um, a, a a version of Google Lens. So if you've got your cell phone, and here's my cell phone, but if you've got your cell phone, you can use the mobile version using AI mode and using Google Lens and point your camera just at something and ask questions of it in real time. So this was, if people remember, one of the, I think it was Google I/O conference, maybe about the year ago. They were, had a demo. It was a somewhat recorded demo, but this is now going to be live for people that turn on this AI search mode. So basically, it's going to look around your surroundings and understand the objects that are there, allowing you to search and get AI responses back. And then the other thing related sort of this AI Google Lens is searching for what you see in Chrome. So you could basically say to Chrome, like, tell me about this page. So it's an option that uses not only Lens, but this AI mode to explore content that's directly within your browser, whether it's a diagram, an article, a PDF, and then you could, obviously ask additional questions for deeper understanding. So the whole intent of this update is to really make, your interaction with a search to be more interactive and personalized. And obviously, again, I kind of equate this. We're nearing the new school year, so this is yet again another learning mode for the millions of students that are out there, just in the U.S. alone. Now, outside of just this Canvas/AI mode, there's also something else that Google is releasing or has released, and that is Gemini 2.5 DeepThink. Now, what is this thing? It's basically Google's most advanced reasoning model. And where did this come from? You might have heard of the International Math Olympiad. This was something that Google actually achieved a gold medal in, and it was this highly tuned, most capable reasoning model. No one actually had access to this model up until now. So this is not exactly that same model, but it's pretty darn close. So it's a small variation of it, but this allows individuals, by the way, only those individuals that pay the $250 per month Ultra subscription. But this is a model that is basically a multi-agent model. It's got a system of experts in there. It spawns multiple agents to tackle your questions in parallel. And it's using a more highly advanced computational set of resources rather than a single agent. So this is a mixture of experts with agents laying on top of that with a more capable reasoning model. I think over time, they'll probably trickle this down to the lower tiers, similar probably what OpenAI does with limiting the number of queries that you could use. But again, this is a really a big step forward for this reasoning model. And my personal take on this is you probably have heard a lot of chatter around GPT-5 coming out soon, and maybe on our next episode it might be out, and we'll talk about it. But I see this as some of the other companies trying to push the envelope and get ahead of, all right, well, here's the next reasoning model, putting something out there that may be on par or maybe even better than GPT-5. Time will tell. We'll see it when it comes out. But that's sort of my thought process around why are we seeing DeepMind now.
Awesome. Lots of updates actually from Google. And on the related note, Jamie, whatever you talked about in terms of the AI mode, we also have actually a Copilot mode now in the Edge. The Edge is a browser that Microsoft actually maintains. It's also based on the Chromium. And this Copilot mode does a lot of similar things. Essentially, when you turn this on, and right now, for now, it's like live and it's free. You have actually new homepage. You have a text box in which you write the URL or the search query, or you just want to start basically interacting. So it's essentially like your Copilot version. It becomes like your Copilot there, right? It has a quick assist. Essentially, you start using it for asking for whatever you require. For example, it also has like voice navigation. You can tell the Copilot to find something on a page or open the new tabs or search for something. So it's like a full action oriented voice control. You can have I think that in the future they will also have the voice control for the handling reservations and buying gifts and other delegation that will also be coming around. You don't need to also actually flip between lots of tabs to tell, like, okay, compare this or that. Like, essentially you can just tell the Copilot that, okay, hey, compare the my itinerary between these two tabs, right? So it can browse across those tabs. You don't need to go to that specific tab, etc. as well. You also basically have a better way, like, essentially, like using the voice, you can have you can organize your items better. You can have, for example, you can organize your history by project or topics, etc. So, something similar to what you showed, Jimmy. It is like in from the AI mode is from Google in any browser. And what I'm talking about is the Copilot mode, which is specifically to the edge, right? So that's a difference. So it's at the browser level, but a lot of functionality is similar to what you talked about from the AI mode as well. And particularly the voice navigation, I think that's something that's really actually exciting to work with, and you can essentially use that for the uh, basically getting your search done, but from a in a Copilot mode.
Yeah, and as you talked about similarities, definitely there's a lot overlap between the Copilot mode and Edge and Google's AI search. The one thing that I did run into, because I wanted to use it, obviously, is I tried to log on or turn it on, because it's one of these features you got to turn on inside of Edge. But I was blocked because I was logged in under my enterprise account. So just a word of insight: just make sure you're logged on not with your enterprise account, but your personal account. That's the only way that you're going to be able to see the Copilot mode in Edge.
True. I ran into that as well. But you can actually,
Look
essentially switch your
profiles.
profile in
Yeah.
the ad and then try to use it. Um, but yeah, I would definitely give it a spin. It's certainly different experience. All right. So, Jimmy, I think I noted that we have already at the 42-minute almost. I guess we probably just wrap it up here because we want to contain the timing as well. Although we do have some other content, but I think we can cover that next time.
Yep. Yeah. Sounds good. Well, as you said, we already went over. So thanks again for everybody for listening in.
Blame it on AI. There's too many.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks, Shadab.